Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today it is the Premier League preview. After the FA Cup and that sort of taking centre stage with several games not happening, and I think we only had 6 Premier League games instead of the usual 10. There was 2 on Saturday and then 3 on Sunday and then 1 on Monday night. So we're back to the normal schedule at so we have 1 at 12:30, and then we have 5 at 3 o'clock, 1 at 5:30. Sunday we have 2:15 and 4:30. And then finally, 8 o'clock kickoff on Monday night as well. So we have a full host of fixtures to get ourselves into. So Liverpool host Stoke in the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. Liverpool have been in great form. They've won 3 of their last 5 matches with draws against Everton and West Brom. Both have been in between before big Champions League games. The others have just been wins. They won 5-2 on Tuesday night with Salah and Firmino bagging a brace, and Sadio Mane scored as well. So I would imagine that Liverpool will change things. They will probably make several changes ready for Wednesday night when they travel to Rome to the Stadio Olimpico to try and get into the Champions League final for the first time in 11 years. However, I do think that they will probably beat Stoke. Stoke have drawn their last 2 games against West Ham away and Burnley at home, but I don't think they'll win this one. I'm going to go for 2-0 Liverpool. I just can't see Paul Lambert's side getting anything, and I think that they will lose this one, and potentially it could be curtains for them if results do not go their way. So they really need to try and pick something up, but it's going to be so tough against Liverpool, particularly at Anfield. Despite them making changes, I can't see Liverpool not winning. Maybe the likes of Ings will come in and maybe Solanke, and they'll probably make a few changes ready for Wednesday. But they can, and they should. They're pretty much sewn up for third or fourth. They're going to be in the Champions League. Hopefully for them, they'll have an automatic spot in the Champions League because they will hope to win the Champions League. Whether that will happen, I do not know, but I'm pretty sure they will have Champions League football next season, so it doesn't really matter what goes on. It's going to be a big game for Stoke. They need to pick up 3 points, but I think they'd be happy with a point. Their game at the Bet365 Stadium in November, Liverpool ran out 3-0 winners, with Mane scoring the first goal and 2 goals from Salah, giving Stoke a 3-0 loss and Liverpool all 3 points. And that was under Mark Hughes, so that was before Paul Lambert came in January. All is not lost if they do not win. If they could pick up anything from the game, it would be brilliant. The last 2 games are at home to Crystal Palace and away to Swansea. So let me just give you a bit of a reminder of how the league looks. Crystal Palace are on 35 and Swansea on 33. Swansea in the last few games have Southampton and they have Stoke. So those are 2 huge games, and that could see them safe. But Stoke really need to win their last 2 games and hope. I think if they win their last 2 games, I think that they could do it. They could stay up. But they haven't won 2 games under Paul Lambert. They've only won 1 game, and that was, I think it was his first game in charge. So it's going to be tough for them. So I went with 2-0 Liverpool in the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. So next it's Burnley versus Brighton. Brighton are still in danger of relegation. Stoke can get 35 points, but Southampton Southampton can get 41 points, which drags them in just against Brighton have only got 36 points, so they could be potentially dragged into this. But a win here against Burnley would pretty much seal their safety and Premier League football for next season. Burnley are currently in 7th place, and they are 8 points clear with 5 games to go. With 3 games to go, and that means Everton can only get a maximum of 54. Burnley have 53, and Leicester can get 56. So a win for Burnley in any of their final games will see them safely through to the Europa League. So form-wise, Burnley have been in good form, losing just one of their last 5 games. However, they did drew against Stoke, who are in 19th place. They lost to Burnley 2-1 at home, and they beat Leicester, they beat Watford, and they beat West Brom in their last 3 games, as well as beating West Ham and Everton in that 5-game winning run. So their home form has been decent, picking up. They drew against Manchester City, they drew against Southampton, and they beat Everton and Leicester and lost to Chelsea in their last 5 games. Brighton's home form, they haven't won away from home in the league. They haven't won at home in the league since November, beating Swansea 1-0. So they have just picked up just 3 points on the road since drawing against Newcastle, Southampton and Stoke. The last time these two met, they played out a 0-0 draw, and I think this is going to be a tight one again. I think that Brighton will take anything, but I do think Sean Dyche's side will get the win. I'm going to go for 2-1 Burnley, and I think that will see them safely into the Europa League, which is a brilliant achievement by Sean Dyche. No one saw them doing this. No one saw them finishing 7th. They've done fantastic. They really have. And I don't think Sean Dyche should win Manager of the Season. I think that should be Pep. But he's done a brilliant job, and they deserve to be in the Europa League next season, and well done to them. In another game involving one of the sides down the bottom, Crystal Palace are on 35 points. Crystal Palace host Leicester. So Leicester were sort of in that battle at the beginning of the season, then they replaced Craig Shakespeare, who is now a coach at Everton, and they employed Claude Puel, and they've done alright under Claude Puel. They're now 9th. They're nowhere near the relegation zone, so they are safe. So Crystal Palace have picked up 8 points from their last 15, losing to Liverpool, their only loss in those 5 games. Drew against Watford, beat Brighton in their little rivalry. Drew against Bournemouth after being 2-1 up, but a late equaliser for Bournemouth gave them just a point, and beat Huddersfield 2-0. Leicester, on the other hand, lost 3 of their last 5 games, with a win against Brighton and a draw in their last Premier League game against Southampton in a very boring 0-0 game. In the last time these met, they met at the King Power Stadium, and Crystal Palace were brilliant and won 3-0 with Benteke scoring. I think Wilfried Zaha got one. They were brilliant and they thoroughly deserved the win. I think Leicester did go down to 10 men at some point, but they were second best all day and deserved to lose. So I'm going to go for Crystal Palace in this one. I'm going to go 2-0 Palace, and I think that will see them safe, which is a brilliant achievement considering when Roy Hodgson came in, they had no points, no goals, and they looked like they were dead. So he has done absolutely brilliant. Another tie involving one of the sides down the bottom. It's a huge game at the John Smith Stadium where Huddersfield Town host Everton. So Huddersfield are really struggling for form. They won their last game against Watford, but before that they hadn't won a game in 5, and that game was against West Brom under Alan Pardew. So they've been doing okay, and Everton have won 2 of their last 5 games, drawing 2 and losing their only game to champions Manchester City. In the last game, Everton won 2-0 at home in the Goodison Park. This is a huge game for Huddersfield. Win and they're safe, and they've done absolutely brilliantly. David Wagner has done an incredible job at Huddersfield. What he has done with that club is phenomenal. I really do hope that they do stay up and do get the 3 points, but I don't think they will. I think that Everton will beat them. I'm going to go for 2-1 Everton. Everton have been in a bit of a weird situation with Allardyce, where Allardyce is under pressure. They don't want him. They don't like his style of football. He's obviously come in and steadied the ship and that, but it was never really a match made in heaven. Everton have played some beautiful football in their last few seasons under Roberto Martinez, who is now the manager of Belgium, and Ronald Koeman, who is now manager of Holland. So it wasn't really a good fit, but he did what they wanted. I think they will relieve him of his duties at the end of the season. I don't really see the point in sacking him now. It's not going to make any difference. They could lose every game and they'd still finish in the top half. So he's done what he was meant to do. I don't think that they will keep him around for next season. I think that will only lead to more problems. I think they will get rid of him. But it is a key appointment. They need to get this one right, because they can't be in the same situation they were under Koeman, where so-and-so comes in, he spends a ruck of money. Koeman's spent over 100 million, and then they play terribly and really struggle in their first few months, and they're down there and they could go. So they sack him and then get somebody, I don't know, like Tony Pulis or whoever, and they save him and they're fine. And then all our Everton fans are, we should play this style of football, which is fine, and I understand that totally. But they do not want to be in that situation again next season, so they need to get this appointment right. So I will go with 2-1 Everton to beat Huddersfield away from home. So another game kicking off at 3 o'clock is Newcastle versus West Brom. So West Brom have to win this game or they will be relegated. They need to pick up 3 wins from 3 just to be on 34 points, which is 1 more point than Swansea currently have. We'll get on to Swansea in a minute. They're obviously going to go whether they win this game or not, but they need to win or they will be relegated from the Premier League. It's been a disastrous season for them. I think if they'd have kept Pulis, they probably would have stayed up. But the West Brom fans weren't happy, and I understand why they weren't happy. Tony Pulis plays a very boring brand of football. If you want to see boring 1-0 wins, then Tony Pulis is the man for you. They sacked him. They brought in Alan Pardew, an experienced Premier League manager. It totally backfired on them, and they are going to be in the Championship next season. But they have been doing a lot better under Darren Moore. Darren Moore is undefeated as caretaker manager of West Brom. They've won 1 and drawn 2. They've drawn against Swansea at home and Liverpool at home, coming from 2-0 down last weekend to draw. They obviously went to Old Trafford and won 1-0 with Rodriguez getting the only goal. So that meant that City won the title. However, that doesn't really affect West Brom. So West Brom need to go to Newcastle and win, which is going to be a tough ask. So Newcastle are unbeaten in the last 7 home fixtures in all competitions at the St James's Park. So one of those was a win against Luton 3-1, but the rest were a draw against Brighton, draw against Swansea and a draw against Burnley. But in the last 4 games they have won every one, beaten Manchester United 1-0, Southampton 3-0, Huddersfield 1-0, and of course that great win against Arsenal 2-1. So those 4 wins have really put them clear. They are 12 points clear of Southampton, who are in 18th, and that is the maximum points they can get. So they're pretty much guaranteed safety at this point, which is a brilliant job that Rafa Benitez has done, because Newcastle have quite an average squad. They haven't really got many good players, and Rafa has really got them playing well. The likes of Lascelles and John Joe Shelby have been key to their side staying up, and he has done brilliantly, and full credit to Rafa Benitez, who has been struggling under the conditions of Mike Ashley. I can't see West Brom going to Newcastle and winning, but I think Newcastle will probably get the win. I'm going to go for 1-0 Newcastle, a tight game, but they do get the win, and West Brom are relegated from the Premier League and will be playing Championship football next season at the Hawthorns. But in all fairness, it doesn't really matter how the result goes. Darren Moore has done fantastic since being in charge. He has picked up 5 points, which is a fifth of all of the points they've got in just 3 games, which is a really, really remarkable achievement to do that with a side such low on confidence who lost 8 games in a row under Pardew before he was sacked. So I think that he has a good shout in being in charge next season, but whether they'll go with a more experienced name, somebody who's been there and done it, and I don't know. But I think he has a great chance in being the next Bays manager. So the final game at 3 o'clock is a South Coast derby between Southampton and Bournemouth. Bournemouth, like Newcastle, were in deep trouble but have got away in the last few weeks. They are now 9 points clear of Southampton. Southampton can only get a maximum of 12, and they do play Manchester City on the final game. Stoke can only get a maximum of 9 points, and they play Liverpool on Saturday, as I have just previewed. So their last game they drew 1-1, and that was under Maurizio Pellegrino, who was sacked after a 3-0 defeat to Newcastle, and now obviously Mark Hughes is manager of Southampton. So since Hughes has come in, they have beaten Wigan, and they have drawn against Leicester, and they have lost 4 games, losing 3-0, 3-2, 2-3 and 2-0. Those losses coming against Arsenal, West Ham, Chelsea and Chelsea again in the FA Cup. I did see some of the FA Cup game. It was fairly boring. They didn't really offer much until they scored and were 1-0 down. But, I think they were sort of resigned that they were going to lose, and they have bigger fish to fry, so it doesn't really matter. They need to get back on it and beat Bournemouth. Bournemouth have been in okay form after getting out of the relegation zone. In the last 5 games, they've won 1 against basement side West Brom, drawn against Watford and Crystal Palace, and lost against Liverpool and Manchester United, who are both in the top 4. I think Southampton are going to win this. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Southampton. I think that they will get their first Premier League win under Mark Hughes and really put themselves in a chance of staying up and maybe sending Swansea down, who I think they play next week. So that's a huge game. That's going to be, a right cracker, and that is going to be something that will define who goes down in the relegation zone. But I do think Southampton will get the win. I'm going to go for 2-0 Southampton. Seems like all of the teams down there are playing on Saturday, and the final game is Swansea against Chelsea. So Swansea have picked up just 3 points from their last 5 games, and lost in their last game 5-0 to Manchester City, drawn against Everton, West Brom and Huddersfield, and lost to Manchester United 2-0. Chelsea have been in fine form after having a bit of a dip. They've won their last 3 games against Southampton twice and Burnley, so they have been in a lot better form. In their last game, Chelsea beat Paul Clement's Swansea 1-0. So I don't know how this is going to go. I think it will probably be a draw. I'm going to go one apiece, just because they need the points. Chelsea have nothing really to play for. I don't think that they're really playing for him too much. And Swansea are desperate for the points. They have quite a good crowd there at the Liberty Stadium, and I can see them getting them at least a point over the line. And hopefully that's what happens, because it will make the race for survival even more interesting. Actually, no, I think that's... I'm not sure actually about 1-1. I'm going to go for 2-1 Chelsea with a late winner, because that's what I think that they will get the win. And then it's going to be a very, very tight end of the season with Swansea facing Stoke and Southampton. They could relegate both sides potentially, which would be something that would please the Swansea fans to stay up despite all of the problems they have had this season, with the lack of goals from Wilfred Bonney, from Tammy Abraham, but they've still managed to get themselves above water, which is very good. So I'll go for 2-1 Chelsea, and change my prediction from 1-1 to 2-1. And on to Sunday we go, with the first game being kicking off at 2:15, and that game is between West Ham and champions Manchester City. So Manchester City are chasing that 100 points tally, 100 goals as well. They're currently on 98 goals, 90 points. They currently have, I think, 29 wins. So this will be their 30th win, which is equaling the record of Chelsea, which was set last season under Antonio Conte. They have won They've won 6 of their last 7 Premier League games. Their only defeat coming against Manchester United. And West Ham have won 1 of their last 7 games at win coming against Southampton. They drew against Chelsea and drew against Stoke before losing 4-1 to Arsenal in a game that was decided by like a few minutes, where Arsenal just kept finding the back of the net. And I don't think that West Ham deserved to lose 4-1, but that's what happened because Arsenal was so clinical. And I can't see City losing here. I really can't. In their last game, it was a tight one, if I remember correct, with David Silva scoring the winning goal, and I think West Ham took the lead at the Etihad, but City got there eventually. But in their 2 previous games, they lost 4-0 in the Premier League to Manchester City at the London Stadium, and 5-0 in the FA Cup at the London Stadium to Manchester City. So they haven't really got a good track record of beating them at the London Stadium, and in those 2 games they were very poor, but that was under Slaven Bilic, who has now left West Ham, and David Moyes is now in charge of the Irons. But I'm going to go for 3-0 to Manchester City and another step towards the 100 points. 102 goals will take them to 100 goals as well. The record is 103 set by Chelsea under Carlo Ancelotti, which is a lot, but I think they'll get that as well. That's only 5 goals away from them, and they have a pretty good run in towards the end of the season, so that is something that could definitely happen. 3-0 Manchester City. In probably the game of the weekend, it's Manchester United taking on Arsenal. This will be Arsene Wenger's last game against Manchester United, a rivalry that's been going on for over 20 years, first with Sir Alex Ferguson and now Jose Mourinho. I am expecting a Manchester United win here. A win for them would pretty much guarantee second place, which is a decent season overall for the Red Devils. They have won 4 of their last 5 games, beating Swansea, Manchester City, Bournemouth and Tottenham at Wembley in the FA Cup. The only defeat coming against West Brom in that very weird game. Arsenal have also been in good form, winning 3 of their last 5 games. Wins coming against West Ham, Southampton and CSK in Moscow, losing against Newcastle and drawing 2-2 in Moscow. But they will be in between that double header against Atletico Madrid in the Europa League semi-final, which is something that all of the players and the manager and all the staff and all the fans want to win. So that means that they probably will make changes for this game, but there's no need for Jose Mourinho to make changes. He probably wants to win. He wants to stick it to Arsene Wenger one last time, and I think that's what he will do. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Manchester United. And I think that they will pretty much guarantee second place, which has been an overall okay season. If Manchester City finish on 100 points or 102 points, then what can you say? You can say that you come second to probably one of the best sides that has ever been in the Premier League. And, I think Jose Mourinho has done quite a good job. Got to the FA Cup final. They could have done better. They should have done better in the League Cup. They should have beaten Bristol City. They should have beaten Sevilla. But I think he's done all right. And I think a lot of the criticism is rather harsh. So that's 1-0 to Manchester United. And in the final game, it's another Monday Night Football on Monday. And that is between Tottenham Hotspur and Watford. So this is a 8 o'clock kickoff at Wembley Stadium. So we start off with the away side, and they have been in quite poor form under Javi Gracia. They picked up just 2 points from their last 18, which is 1 every 9, which is sort of draw every 3 games, which is rather poor. They've done okay when he first came in, but they haven't really done much since. I think that they are lucky that there are so many sides that are quite poor and that they've got enough points, and also they had a great start to the season, Marco Silva, and then the whole Everton thing, and then things went rather south for Watford at the Vicarage Road. But it's been quite a sour end. I'm not sure if they'll keep him on at the end of the season. I'm not sure what they'll do. I think I'll probably get rid of him because that's what they do as a club, which is fine. That's up to them. Tottenham have been in okay form as well. They've won 2 of their last 5 games. With the only losses coming against both Manchester clubs. I think that Tottenham will get the win here, and a win here really pretty much seal 4th place and Champions League football next season in their new home, where the previous White Hart Lane was. It's meant to have around 62,000 capacity at the new White Hart Lane, or whatever they choose to call it. I'm going to go for 4-1 to Spurs, with Harry Kane bagging a couple. Watford have been quite poor in recent weeks, and I expect Tottenham to really put them to the sword. So that pretty much is the end of the Premier League review. And in the following week, it's back to the Champions League. On Tuesday night, Real Madrid host Bayern Munich at the Bernabeu. On Wednesday at the Stadio Olimpico, Roma take on Liverpool, and on Thursday, Salzburg versus Marseille, and Atletico Madrid versus Arsenal in the Europa League. All of those are second legs, so we will know who is in the final of both European tournaments by the end of the week. And just a reminder that on Friday we have a Friday night football with Manchester United travelling to Brighton with an 8 o'clock kickoff. So that is pretty much the week next week. And there will also be, I think, playoff football from the Vanarama National League next week as well, if you're into your non-league football, which I am, and I will probably be watching if I can. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know your predictions down below. Let me know who you think will get relegated from the Premier League. And thank you so much for watching. And this has been a rather long video, probably one of the longest I've made. So if you have made it to the end, thank you so much. And I really do appreciate it. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Comment with, if you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will probably see you maybe Saturday. I will see you tomorrow, definitely. I will probably come on tomorrow and film something, and maybe probably Monday or Tuesday will be my next video. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching. I am Mike, and I will see you soon.